What's the worst horror story from steroids you've seen?
Personally, I dated this girl 15 years ago. She was a bikini competitor and she got into competing, was doing great, decided to use Anavar 50 milligrams a day, 50 milligrams.
What exactly does Anavar do?
It builds muscle. Every steroid is an anabolic steroid. Steroids are anabolic androgenic steroids. Anavar is less androgenic, which means it causes virilization, turns you more into man, deeper voice and all that stuff. She's 50 milligrams. She put on 20 something pounds of muscle. She went from bikini into like the bodybuilding division. So she was huge, like put on so much muscle and no real negative side effects. The voice was normal. There was none of the facial hair, none of the downstairs growth, let's call it. So, I'm immune. And so after that, you get that dopamine rush of, hey, I got second place at this show. I got first place at this show. Then you want to keep going. And so from that point, now I'm going to push all in. Then comes the testosterone, the DECA, the D-ball at higher doses. And all of a sudden I'm like, what? I only dated this person for 6 weeks. What's wrong with your voice? What's going on with your face? Like facial hair growth, the acne bursting through the skin, getting on a bar, squatting and seeing blood from the acne busting. Gross.
No.
Like this is just disgusting. And I'm like, you need to stop. This person just kept pushing it like that, would not stop, passing out in the gym. People were blaming me throughout Canada because they thought I was the one that was giving it to her because I had dated her for a few. Look at Greg, he coached her. I'm like, I had nothing to do with this. I tried to make her stop. But of course, there's always someone in your corner whispering in your ear, take more, take more. You're going to be the best. You'll be Miss Olympia. Just keep going. And so they don't listen. And so this kind of stories happen all the time. It happens everywhere. I do videos on these people all the time that happen at the Miss Olympia show. I mean, that's horrendous, but there's worse stories. There's people who die.
And what happened to her?
Well, she ended up getting into OnlyFans at one point. I haven't heard from this person in years. She ended up using, I believe it was meth and just being like, I mean, just a mess. Like,
do you think that her lack of like logic and reasoning skills was a product of this PED abuse, or do you think that it was something that she probably had for a long time that led to the PED abuse that got maybe exacerbated by that and then went to the meth and everything?
When you take steroids as a man or as a woman, it changes your mind. Like you really become a different person. I've talked to many women like this. Men already have higher levels of testosterone, 10 or 12 times higher than women. And so when she took testosterone, and it was testosterone and other drugs, she probably had more testosterone than me, a lot more. She's fighting people at the bar, fist fights. And it's like, whoa. And then you start winning and you want to win more and you just can't think rationally. You become more aggressive. You become like hyper masculine and it changes you as a person. You're no longer feminine. Like a lot of people think men and women, we're all the same. Let's all be equals. We're not equals. We're different people. Men and women are not the same and nor should they be the same. But in society today, we try to treat people like, no, let's all treat everyone the same. We shouldn't be treated the same. So a woman with male hormones becomes more of a man and this creates a downward spiral. And I do think that that's one of the causes of what led her to do all these things.
What are some of the biggest mistakes people make if they do decide to take steroids?
The first mistake I think they do is taking too much. Many people think that they should take, for example, 500 milligrams of test and trend because that's what such person took. Well, I'm going to take this. The babiest of smallest of doses would make a significant difference, but people want all the gains right now. And so they see the best transformations in the world. The guys put on, say, 20, 30 pounds of muscle in like 3 months. And so when they take steroids and they only put on 10 pounds, they're like, well, what's wrong with me? And they take much too high of a dose. Second thing is they take too many different steroids rather than just saying, I'm just going to only take testosterone or I'll only take Anavar. They take several things at the same time, very high doses. And they do these steroids for way too long. And what do the average person think? They think, well, I'll just do it. And I watched Chris Bumstead win. How would it hurt him? He's a millionaire. I watched Sam Sulek get 5 million followers and he just won his pro card. Does he go on or off? We don't know. So who's actually outspoken? Who talks about this? I did. I talked about everything that happened to me. And what happens? You're a bad person, Greg, because you took steroids and you tell this and you promote it to people. I'm like, I do the opposite. I think I've done more to be anti-steroid than almost anyone. But yet people will criticize me for being open. Well, just don't talk about it. Well, if they talked about it and expressed the negative things that happen, I think that would be way better.
What would happen if you took someone that didn't go to the gym, they don't diet, and they started taking steroids.
They've done these studies. And so this has actually confused people because they gave them 600 milligrams of testosterone and they said, don't train and take it. What'll happen? And the thing is, they all gained a lot of weight, 10, 15 pounds. And so they said, oh, see, steroids build muscle without working out. But the problem is it gains weight. Doesn't mean it's muscle. Water weight, for example, you use a DEXA scan and you're up 10 pounds, but you're bloated. Like when I took steroids, my face was like a moon face, like I was puffy. I had the ripped six-pack, single-digit body fat, perhaps the same leanness as now, but I looked fatter in the face. And so when people take steroids and they don't work out, they gain a lot of weight, but it's mostly water weight. And the problem is, as soon as you stop, you lose that weight. And so if you do take steroids and don't train, you're not really getting anything from it whatsoever, aside from, some of the problems that come. Of course, some positive side effects could be like your improved sex drive or ability to concentrate, work harder, that goes up. But as far as just building muscle, you need a stimulus for muscle growth to occur.
Are steroids always bad? Is there anyone who should be taking them?
Steroids are not always bad. For example, I need to take them. Now, is it my own fault? Yes. I abused steroids for probably about 10, 11 years. And then I stopped. And the doctor said, your testosterone levels are in the toilet. I had 47 nanograms per deciliter in one test, another test 49. Normal males like say 250 to 1,000 or so. So I was more like a female. And because of that, my sex drive was horrible, hard to get erections, hard to sleep well, hard to concentrate. You feel like garbage. You feel aches and pains. You're more moody. You just don't feel good. You don't feel right. You don't feel like you should. And so anyone that takes steroids for an extended period of time and then stops, you're going to go through this period where you feel like Superman when you're on them. But when you go off of them, it's the opposite effect. I compare it to you get drunk and you feel really good and it's amazing. Then the next morning you wake up and you're hungover with a headache. As good as you feel on the steroids, the opposite's going to happen when you get off.
So if those are all of the negative consequences of having low testosterone, what are some natural ways someone could increase their testosterone?
Natural ways to increase testosterone, there's not the greatest amount of things you can do. You're going to need to get enough sleep. So most people would have normal levels of testosterone if they didn't do stupid things. So partying, doing drugs, drinking, staying up all night, being extremely stressed out, going on crash diets. So not having a healthy diet, like not eating enough vitamins, minerals, or just starving yourself, not eating. A lot of people that have low levels of testosterone, they're bodybuilders. They diet down to say 5% body fat, or they suffer from anorexia. That causes their testosterone levels to go down. So if you don't do all those things, you're likely going to feel pretty healthy. It's rare that a person actually needs testosterone replacement, maybe say 1 or 2% of the population.
What percentage of the top level bodybuilders would you say have eating disorders or some sort of body image issue?
Well, even I did this research back in my university days, and it was like 25% of athletes involved in weight classes have eating disorders, whether it's bulimia, anorexia, and so on. That's in a weight class. So they could call it wrestling, fighting, any kind of boxing, 25% of those. In bodybuilding, you're being judged on your appearance. And so it's much higher than that. And so I'm going to go and say roughly 50% of the people that I would have coached or I know of have disordered eating behavior, whether you want to call that an eating disorder or not. It's extremely prevalent. It's horrible. It's like, when I hear a person very excited to be a bodybuilder, I'm always thinking, now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, this is great. I love the sport, but I am concerned because I know that once you get into it and you see yourself shredded, like you say you're a normal guy, you're like 20% body fat. You're not bad. You might almost have abs. Then you diet down and you're shredded and you got the oil on and you dieted and you're just amazing. And then everyone's like, wow, look at your abs. You look amazing. Then you go off of that and you gain back the weight. It might only go to 15%. You were 20 here, you get down to 5, you go back to 15. You always remember 5. You always remember all the compliments you got. You don't remember, well, I used to be 20 or 15. You compare yourself to your best. And so that's one of the biggest problems with using steroids or competing is that you will remember you on that day on stage, and then you're triggered, and that's when the eating disorders come from remembering how you used to look. You look in the mirror and you're like, I don't like how I look anymore. I remember how I was. And then it's a constant battle of starving yourself, doing cardio. I mean, just as early as yesterday, a guy wrote me, he's like, I'm doing 100 minutes of cardio on the bike a day, and I'm eating 2,000 calories a day, and I'm not lean enough. I'm like, show me a picture. He's like 5'8" and weighs 135 pounds. And it's like, well, you look healthy. Like, but do you really need to do all this? And that happens to I would say 50% of people.
How do you draw the line between dedication and disorder?
I think that it's when it negatively affects your life. And so I've been accused of having an eating disorder for years. I watched my YouTube videos. People made YouTube videos about it. You eat from your cookbook. You're eating all these vegetables and fruits and high volume meals, and look at you biking. And I'm like, I love all this. It's fun for me. I enjoy it. I look forward to every time I bike. I was riding the bike an hour this morning. I rode the bike an hour yesterday. I can't wait. It makes me happy. I enjoy it. I like the foods that I eat. But if I felt negative, if I couldn't take my shirt off at any time in the day, if I couldn't take a photo and I had to say, can you take 10 photos of me and I'll delete the 9 that don't look good and I'll post that one? I could take my shirt off right now, stick my stomach out and stand in front and wave at the camera and say, hey, it's me. I'm happy. But if I couldn't do that, if I couldn't go to the pool unless I skipped lunch, you know how many people like, they diet down to go to Mexico? I'm like, I'm just showing up. You're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you think I'm going to do all this so I can look good at the beach in Mexico? I already look good. I look better than 99% of people, so I don't have that. But most people don't like their bodies, no matter how good they are. Like Sebum. Do you think he likes his body right now? He thinks he's a skinny bitch. Like he literally does. He's lost 20 pounds of muscle. He's like, man, I look like this in Prague. I look like this at the Olympia. Now it's like, I can't train this on my shoulder. He's got a shoulder injury. It's like, he doesn't like it. He wants that body. And so no matter how good you are, it's never enough.